Welcome for the final presentation in this session. This is joint work with Samir KC, and it also happened in collaboration with Wolfgang, Lutz, Raya Mutarag and Erich Struisnik. You will see results from their research in here too that I combined with some of my results in order to give a bigger picture. The name of the presentation, 4D population scenarios for future adaptive capacity in Phang Nga, will hopefully be clear after the first couple of slides what I mean with that. Well, the motivation to do this study, that should be clear by now. This is the Thai province that was hardest hit by the tsunami in 2004. We heard the number of dead or missing people already. A lot of people were also injured, and the economic impact mainly affected the tourism and fishery sector. So what this actually is, it's a case study. I would also call it a little bit explorative study that shows pathways of general economic prospects and vulnerability of the province. The population is stratified along 4 dimensions, and this is where the 4D comes from. So 2D would be only by age and sex, as it's often done, 3D adding the education dimension, and 4D also having information about economic activity in here. And the reason to combine all these dimensions together also with vulnerability, so the binding force is education. There's a lot of literature on the relationship between education and economic activity and how this differs in countries, different development stage, what are the factors, the relationship is different for men and women, all of that is kind of the background for this. And similar, what we've seen already during the last couple of days here, that education and vulnerability to natural disasters are also associated. And yeah, so this was the motivation to put all this together in this case study. Some background data on Phang Nga, where we are. So you can then judge for yourself whether the assumptions we make build up on past trends. The average years of educational attainment of the population 15 years and older have increased from 5.7 years in 1990 to 7.8 in 2010. The population of school age that is not actually attending school, that has decreased the share. And what you can also see in the next 3 rows is that the population is, well, the mean age of the population is increasing. There's less people who are between 0 and 14 years due to reduced fertility during the last decades. The working age population has been increasing, and the population above age 60 has also increased, though not to any drastic levels yet, so I would hardly speak of population aging here yet. The total population increased by about, had a growth rate of about 1% during the last 20 years, and the share of the employed population in the agricultural sector has declined. So based on this broad picture, one can see that there have some shifts in terms of demography and economy going on, and also education structure going on in this province. Oh yeah, and my presentation is structured as follows. So first I do the 4D population projections, and then have a separate part where I combine that with information on vulnerability. The method I use can be read up in KC et al. In their 2010 paper. It's multi-state cohort component method for projections by age, sex, and highest level of educational attainment. In order to do that, I need data that is broken down along several dimensions. Well, naturally, the 3 that I just mentioned, so by age, sex, and education. Country of birth is in here. I'm not going to show results by that indicator. This is more because we realized when we looked at the data that education level and also age structure differs very much for the population that was born in Thailand compared to the one that was born outside of Thailand. I'll say a little more about that later. So that's more a methodological factor that goes in here. We had 5 levels of educational attainment. Those that completed no education or had less than primary education, completed primary education, completed lower secondary education, completed upper secondary education, and anything that was above that. And the economic activity status is according to the ILO definition, people that are economically active or inactive. And the main data source to get our base population was the Thai census in 2010, where we got special analysis broken down according to what we needed. So this is the population for Phang Nga and Thailand in comparison to it in 2010. What you see here are population pyramids, men on the left side, women on the right side within each picture. What might be new to some of you maybe is the color structure in it, and this gives information about the educational attainment of the population and how that differs according to men, women, and by age. Let's first focus on the left side, just a couple of things. Sorry. So what you see, oops. The red here, that's those with no education or less than primary education. Of course, those that are younger than 15, they can't have much education yet. All this here is basically the non-Thai population in Phang Nga. So I don't find a lot of information on them, but I assume they are labor migrants, mainly from Myanmar, Laos and Cambodia. Then the majority of the population here has completed primary education. It's a little hard to see, but that's the whole yellow area here. And then you have some with lower secondary, upper secondary, and higher education. On the right side, when you look at Thailand, the picture is not that different. Thailand overall slightly better educated. Age composition is very similar. A lot of people of working age, as said before. And overall, yeah, Phang Nga had 12% of its population born outside of Thailand, whereas in Thailand it's only 3% overall. In order to do the projections, we had to make some assumptions. I'm also not going to go into too much detail here. We had various scenarios also for this to see how volatile the outcome would be, but I'm just going to present now one main scenario when it comes to fertility, mortality, and migration. The current TFR for the southern province is 1.9. I did not get data particularly for Phang Nga, so I had to use a southern value. Same for life expectancy. The values I'm using here are based from a different source, what's assumed for the south. Interestingly, the south has the highest life expectancy of all regions of Thailand. And migration, so during the 5-year period before 2010, there was a net migration of 4,000 persons. That really refers only to Phang Nga. All of this is stratified by age, sex, and also education. So there are education differentials in fertility and also in mortality, all entering this. We came up with 3 education scenarios. One that is our reference scenario, where we leave the enrollment rates at current level constant and just see, so if nothing changed, how would that still, just due to the momentum that younger, better educated cohorts will replace older cohorts, what effect would that alone have? Then we looked at the trend over the past, and that shows that universal lower secondary education could be achieved by 2030, so that's also a scenario we use. And the third one is if educational attainment increased to higher levels faster than what the trend might suggest. So we have another one where we assume 80% of the younger population achieve upper secondary education and higher by 2030. And in order to now exemplify what this looks like or what this means for the population of Phang Nga, I now show in 10-year age step the population pyramid and how that changes over time. So we start out with 258,000 people that we have in 2010, and applying the third education scenario, this is how the population would move between now and 2060. And what you see is that in 2060, you would have hardly anybody in the working age anymore who has only primary education, but a lot of people who have lower secondary, upper secondary, or even a diploma bachelor's degree. The population would be 100,000 people higher based on those assumptions of fertility and migration we had. And overall, yeah, it would be older, as you can see by the shape of the pyramid, more people above age 60 and a slim base. The third one, where 80% of the population have upper secondary education or more, which is the dark green color or the blue color. These are those who fall into that category. Right, everybody. Here. This is when I put it all together from the 3 projections. So on the left side is on the constant education scenario. On the x-axis you have now the time, and on the y-axis the composition of your population. The colors are the same, and what you see in the constant scenario, there would be still some increase in those with lower secondary, upper secondary, and higher education, simply because there's a replacement of currently older, less educated cohorts with younger cohorts that are better educated. However, it's really in the other 2 scenarios where you see big changes when it comes to the share of those with at least secondary education. So it really depends how enrollment rates for the currently young and the future young develop. Yeah, this is part of it. So we talked about the education composition and how that could look like so far. Now we're going to combine that with the economic activity aspect. This is labor force participation in Phang Nga in 2010 by age, separately for men and women. This picture is probably also not too uncommon. You see this typical inverse U shape, and participation of women is lower than that of men. What's usually done when labor force projections are done, you use these profiles and combine them with your population structure. It's one of the main ways of doing it. Since we do have the information, we also broke it down by education in advance, since we're really interested in knowing a bit more about the future labor force. So on the left side now are the women, on the right side the men. Yeah, the dark line you see in each graph, that's the same line we saw in the previous picture, the total, the overall, and the colored lines are what you get for the different education categories. There is not that much variance. One thing I find interesting for women who have more than secondary education, which is the line up here, they have significantly higher labor force participation. However, as it was also pointed out earlier, this is a very small group in this area here. What you can also see, what you still see in a lot of countries that are also at the development stage of Thailand, that participation declines for the highly educated sooner than for the others. Which you can see here. These lines, when you look, for example, at Europe, at the US, you see the opposite picture. Those with the highest education stay in the labor force longest. We have 2 scenarios of labor force participation to see a little bit what the sensitivity here is. One where we keep exactly that picture, just combine it with the changing population projection we have using the constant scenario, and one where we assume what would happen if women reached participation level of men. It's not so much about the size here, but mainly about the composition. I will show you that in a second. So both scenarios would assume still an increase in the absolute size of the labor force, because the working age population is still projected to increase. On the right side, thank you, when you look at aggregate participation, the scenario where women would participate as much as men, which is here, aggregate participation would pretty much not fall, which a lot of the, again, European countries, Western countries would have a hard time achieving that. Fairly easy possible here. Just a few words. Yeah, I have to move quicker here. So in 2010, the composition of the labor force was really towards lower education. So 63% of the labor force had at most primary education, and only a good third had secondary or upper education, more education. The constant scenario would already shift this a little bit towards higher education levels. Of course, the scenario where we assume the increase in upper secondary education would mean a more drastic shift, and by 2060 this would actually pretty much reverse the picture that hardly anybody would have a primary education. And of course this comes along with the effects it has for productivity. Needless to say, all that also depends on how labor demand develops. So now this is assuming that those who are in the labor force are also finding jobs in the area here. Let's move on to vulnerability. the information about the vulnerability is based on a household survey in Phang Nga in 2013 that was already introduced earlier. I'm not going to say more about that. There was a question in there about disaster preparedness, which is, does your household have any preparation in case a disaster strikes? No and yes, and it gave several examples. And as soon as somebody said, yes, we have any preparation measure, they were coded as having measure. We didn't distinguish between that. So we looked at those 25 to 55-year-olds who had not have previous disaster experience, simply because it's really about the abstract thinking. So what would you do if this disaster did strike you? And what you get here is that, if you can see it here, that among men as well as women, those with higher education answered to a higher degree that they do have some kind of preparation in case a disaster strikes. Yeah, so that's the picture, and these are the values that are going to enter what I show you on the next slide. So we keep this constant, this distribution of disaster preparedness, and only vary the education structure of the population. We use our 3 education scenarios and combine it with this answer pattern to see how prepared is the population in the future. So since these are only the answers of those who had not been affected by a disaster yet, we can say, if anything happens, major disaster after 2040, how prepared would the population be for that? And then you see that, well, the 18.1% of preparedness that you have in 2010 would increase only very little to 2060 for those in the constant education scenario. However, in the other 2 education scenarios, if you really have more people with upper secondary education, almost 30% would be prepared for that in the future. Yeah, and there was also some gender dimension to it. Second aspect of the vulnerability picture is a combination of the projection results with work that has been done by Erich Striesnik and others. They analyzed the determinants of natural deaths from natural disasters and found that education, or particularly female education, is the most important social and economic factor associated with a reduction in the number of deaths in the 125 countries they analyzed. And they have a graph in there where they show the correlation between deaths and education level of women. So on the x-axis you have the proportion of women aged 20 to 39 with at least secondary education, and on the y-axis the total number, log of the total number of deaths divided by the initial population. What you get is this negative sloped regression, and in their study they had these 3 countries in there. This is why that's still pointed out there. So what we now did is add Phang Nga to this picture. We don't know anything about the y-axis, but we know the x-axis, right, since we project the population by education. And when we put Phang Nga on here now, so in 2010, 52% of the women had at least lower secondary education, which puts Phang Nga right here. In the constant education scenario, this in 2060 would move Phang Nga a little bit down to lower expected number of deaths, not that much. However, the other 2 education scenarios both would pretty much lead to 100% of women with at least secondary education, and also lower, according to this relationship, the expected number of deaths. Yeah, to wrap things up, I hope I could show in this time that if past trends continue, Phang Nga will have a population and a labor force with higher levels of human capital than now, even in the constant case, or even more so if trends continue further. And given the link between education and disaster preparedness or disaster deaths, the prospective local population is likely to be less vulnerable to future extreme natural disasters than it is today the case. So the future population is going to be a different one than today. And well, needless to say, just there are several limitations in this, but one big one is, of course, this is a very small area projection. We're talking about 250,000 people here. Migration introduces a great uncertainty into this and in the composition, and particularly also by education, if it happens that educated migrate in or out. So we will do more sensitivity analysis in this regard for the paper. Thank you very much.
minutes for questions. Anyone? Patrick? And then,
Thank you for the presentation. It was interesting to see this work at the local level, but as your slide is pointing out and you have in your paper, the migration assumption is critical to the whole exercise. And it would be helpful, at least as a contextual information, to get a sense of what has been the migration trends over the last at least 1 or 2 census periods, and how does these trends are by sex and level of education. Because right now in all your exercise, this looks like a closed population. Maybe I missed it, but it looks to me like you're assuming zero migration. If not, it would be helpful to have a sense of what are you assuming, and to what extent all your results are influenced or not by the migration part of the story.
Thank you very much. I spent a great deal on trying to find migration data and was unsuccessful. I tapped into various sources. I do have stock data, but I'm really missing the flow data. What I have is internal migration, net migration of 4,000 persons between 2005 and 2010 for Phang Nga, which is different to the whole southern area because they are losing population, but Phang Nga is apparently gaining. I didn't, any of the sources, be what I try to find online, contact people, find any information about international migration really. And this is the big thing. We saw the large, or not that large, it's 12% of the population in Phang Nga that is born outside of Thailand. I have no clue though when they came in, how long they have been here. And I did in my model try to vary and increase net migration tremendously, reduced it to 0. In either case, it always still led to an increase in the population. I varied the education structure. Like you're saying, of course, that has an effect and has a big influence, but I didn't even find data by age or sex, let alone by education, about migration. And any flow data was very hard to find. But I will try to continue. The next thing is in the census. The problem is in the census 2000. If Vipan is here, she could help me out on that. Maybe the question about nationality and if somebody is Thai or non-Thai was phrased very different, was either not in there, and also irregular migrants were not included. And we're talking here a lot about irregular migration when we talk about the non-Thai population, very likely. So Samir and I tried to use the census 2000 and 2010 to estimate migration, and we didn't get anywhere with that because it's just not comparable how migrants were treated in the two of them. We also had the idea maybe you could see if people left after the tsunami. We all wanted to do these kind of things, but so far what we tried was unsuccessful.
Kate, did you want to say something, Patrick, or Case?
Yes, your second conclusion here is very, very optimistic, and it's always nice to hear that. But I think when you talk about vulnerability and people becoming less vulnerable because of that increasing education, I think it's very important to keep the vulnerability as also as exposure to climatic stressors. Like we are expecting also the stressors to increase. So maybe they'll become better prepared, but not necessarily less vulnerable, I would say.
Yes. I agree, of course. That's another aspect that definitely has to be considered, and this is definitely the optimistic interpretation of it. Thank you.
Charles.
Yeah, this kind of follows the next to last question about migration. But first, I want to know why you limit it to 4D. I would like to know if you consider a 5D, which is residents, which is rural-urban residents. And okay, but the second question again goes back to migration. I think with now, you need to collect your own data on migration. I don't know why you didn't include it, or maybe you did include it, But we're finding, and we've complained about this for many years, that the UN system is really failing us in ensuring that in the census or in the ILO, the labor force surveys, there's better data on different types of migration, not just duration of current residence, which we need to know a lot more. You know, we need to know about irregular patterns, about temporary, about seasonal circulation. We need to know a lot more data, but we're saying the UN system has failed us in reducing the types of migration questions. So we have to collect our own data. And I think you have to do the same. One suggestion would be that if you know that the types of migration that you have had in the past may be selective for higher education, particularly the permanent migration, then with the increase in education, you're going to find a higher probability of net migration. Now I'm sure it's in or out, but basically I think the fact is that you're missing that 50. You've seen a decline in agricultural labor force from 65 to 53. We have to understand that, you know, and obviously that's often related to education, migration as well as education.
Completely agree. I also realized doing small scale projections, this education thing gets a very different effect, because on the country level, yeah, people might migrate within the country, but of course here, assuming too drastic increases in education without assuming that they would really find work in this region they wouldn't stay probably. So that's where we kept going a bit in circles, of course, but that also tells you doing small scale projections is just a very different animal, particularly when you add more dynamic to it. And speaking of urban-rural, yeah, also we didn't have any data, but like you say, maybe that also can be collected oneself. Of course, since the population, as a percentage, okay, that could be in there, but no part of the, if we added another dimension, of course the sensitivity would also get way out of hand if you have that small population. Thank you. I think
I can just speak. Okay, thank you. And in terms of scenario analysis, what is the usual way to deal with uncertainty as we have it in the case of migration? Of course, we not only don't know the recent trend in migration, we are even less certain what will happen in the future. There could be all kinds of, I mean, in Phuket province, we have a lot of inflow of Europeans, for instance. So I think we possibly in this case, you should think of, in addition to the different education scenarios, also having different migration scenarios, both in terms of volume and the educational composition of the migrants.
Yeah, definitely the next step, what we plan on doing anyway, but also within the time here, no way to present more on that. Thank you.
Leiwan, do you have a question?
This is a very ambitious work, and I admire that you want to do such a kind of a complicated projection, and you have like a 21 age, 6 education, and 2 nationality, and you also have like a 2 labor participation, 2 gender. Then you have like a 500 status, more than 500 status, and divided by less than 260 population for each cell. This kind of a projection, the sensitivity, as you said, becomes very, very, very strong. And of course, you want to do more. You can increase the dimension, but the complexity for the projection becomes enormous. This is a type of work I don't know, for the small region, can we do it easier? Say we don't need 6, at least we don't need a 6 education category. Can we reduce it into 3 or even 2? And that's something, you put a lot of effort, but when you come to the use of the projections, and when you measure the vulnerabilities, then you didn't use the economic active or inactive of those information in the projection. That's a kind of loss of the important work. And yeah.
Wait, sorry, could you clarify what you mean by did not use? Of course. Oh, not in the vulnerability, yeah. Yeah. No, that was really just to say something about the labor force. That had nothing to do really with the vulnerability. That was just, but you're right, to do the vulnerability, one could run the projections with less categories. Even the... Yeah, if you don't use it, why do it? Yeah.
Okay, I think we should draw to a close. This has been a very stimulating and challenging session. And we've touched on many dimensions of differential vulnerability, and we've seen how difficult it is to do a lot of this work empirically. So please join me in congratulating the presenters on some very pioneering research, and we congratulate them on being such intrepid researchers. And good luck to continuing this. Thank you. We should, yeah. Okay, good. Thank you, that's great.
Okay, thank you very much. Coming back from coffee break, we have started this morning with a view on the 2004 tsunami here in Phang Nga, and then heard a number of scientific papers that also deal in particular with this region. Now, we thought it is a good idea for an international group that comes from all continents, from all over the world, to somehow even beyond the scientific studies, get a bit better grounded in where we are. And this is the purpose of this session now before lunch. We were very happy that some people from the local community here, who are important stakeholders, could join us to discuss some of the points of vulnerability and disaster preparedness from maybe a more practical side, a more down-to-earth side. So people will be introducing themselves a little and talk about their work. We said about 5 to 7 minutes. Everybody should introduce him or herself. And then I will pose a few questions, try to stimulate some discussion. And then for the large part of the time, there will be an open roundtable discussion. You can ask all the questions that you always had in your mind, like why did the hotels rebuild on the same location here in Khao, or other questions. And we have competent people here to answer this question. Now, since I already mentioned this, we are very happy to have Prapud Khorpeach from the Phang Nga Tourist Association. He actually is the owner of a big hotel close by, and I had the opportunity to talking to him about some of the future perspectives of Phang Nga already some 2 years ago. Next, I'm very happy to welcome Sommart Krawkeo from the Hanseatic School for Life.
Sawasdee krab.
He will tell you what this is. This is an effort supported by some people from northern Germany that was set up after the tsunami, particularly with caring for the orphans of the tsunami. We had invited another person, and he was on the schedule to come from the disaster prevention and mitigation unit of the local government in Phuket, but unfortunately he could not come. But we are very happy to have a foreign visitor, Crisel, Lope-Dumadaug. She is, welcome.
Good morning, I am from the Philippines.
She is from the Philippines, as she just said, and very much involved into local level disaster prevention. And since the Philippines were also just hit by a major natural disaster, we thought it would be a good complementation to see how another country in the region deals with these issues. Now, why don't we just start with short introductions. Who of you wants to start? Okay, you have a small PowerPoint presentation. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'd like, first of all, to say special thanks to Professor Wolfgang Lutz and Dr. Mutarak for giving me an honor and opportunity to meet you all and talk about the work here. First of all, I have to say that I'm not an expert nor a specialist. I'm outside the field of demography, but I would be happy to share the experience on the field with you. I'm the project manager of the Hanseatic School for Life. How do you do this?
Just click OK.
This is a project which was established during the after the tsunami strike in 2004. It's a private charity school. Which is situated about 20 kilometers south of here. From tsunami 2004, as a consequence of that, this project was established. It is during this time, as you have seen already in presentation, that there are so many families, especially children, who are affected by this tragedy. Sorry. And as we all know, that Phang Nga is the worst hit province among all. It is a home and hope for the underprivileged children. At the moment, we have 144 children under our care, from age 4 up until 18, starting from kindergarten to high school. Phang Nga is a small province in the southern Thailand on the Andaman Coast. It's one of the 6 provinces on the Andaman Coast in the south of Thailand. As we all know, that it is famed for its national beauty of its water, beaches, mountains, and forests. This is a symbol of Phang Nga, the so-called James Bond Island, because a James Bond movie was made here. It was filmed here. This is the man with the golden gun, many years ago. But the people did not known as we call Khao Tapu, or the eye crab mountain, because the shape of the mountain, as you can see, this pin shape is like an eye of a crab, so we call Khao Tapu. But it is more well known by the James Bond Island. The population, I've got 1,000 more than the presentation of the last presentation. The population now is 2,050,000. And density is 62.19 per square meters. These pictures are quite well known in the tourist brochure. But these beauties have been affected quite a lot by environmental and social challenges. For the social challenges, in my opinions, are migrants, crime, drugs, income distribution gap, and livelihood. This is from the perspective of the non-demographer. And this is the consequences from the environmental challenges. Environmental challenges that I see is the decline in national resources. About almost 300 years ago, Phang Nga and Phuket started the mining industry, which was very makes a lot of money. We had a lot of forest and fisheries, but now these national resources are in big decline. The climate change is also very obvious. We now have extreme water and powerful storms and the rise in the sea level. In Koh Panyi, I have friends in Koh Panyi and some local villages around that they were very surprised one day that we woke up that the floor was flooded. Can you imagine when people decided to build houses on the sea? We learned about the rise of the sea level, but before they build, they know where the highest tide. But in recent years, at least more than 30 houses were flooded, and that is quite scary. We have experienced also the season change. We know that when the temperature rise up, then there is more rainfall. But at the same time, the dry season becomes longer, and the rainfall patterns also are affected. At the school where I'm working now, this is the first time in history that we are experiencing a drought. We are in shortage of water. The source of water we use is from the shallow wells, and never before that we have experienced this shortage of water. And of course, we heard about the coral bleaching and saltwater intrusion into freshwater rivers, and this is cause of ocean acidification. And the last topic is waste. This is a big problem now. For the climate change, if we ask, if the people or if we know about this change, I think we do know, and because we experience it. But we normally, I think the knowledge of what it is, why it happened, and what the potential impact would be, I think the knowledge on this for the population in general is very limited. And how do we cope with that climate change for the management is also in question. And I'm very happy that I think there are many causes of these climate changes, and it gives a lot of many consequences. And also it involves a lot of stakeholders. And I think it is good that you would kindly involve a stakeholder like me here. This is a short presentation from my side. In Thai we say ขอบคุณครับ
Well, thank you very much, and I should add that your school now, since they are the orphans from the 2004 tsunami, have already grown out of school age, is now a real center for educating the disadvantaged people, and also sort of a community center dealing with some of the issues that you've said. And so later on in the discussion we come back to this point. Now I'm happy to introduce Prapud Khorpeach, as I said before, from the Phang Nga Tourist Association.
Sawasdee krab. Maybe I should say good afternoon already. Okay, I don't have the presentation prepared for everyone because I think you have much information about demography. So I will explain or maybe talk about my experience, and any thoughts from me may be benefit for you. You may have the question later on. Okay, you can call me Joe. I'm the local people here, and from I can say last 50 years ago, Phang Nga area, we are the most exporter for tin industry over the world. This tin business is take about 10 years. After 10 years, most of the people in this area, we turn to do agricultural. Let's say we plant the rubbers and the rubber and palm plantation. After that, from the world economy, they need the prawn. So local people here, we turn our occupation, most of local people, especially in the Khorpeach area, to prawn farm and tiger prawn farm. That we are the most exporter from Thailand another 10 years. So it means we have the business 14 industry, also from the offshore also and mainland tin also. And then we have the prawn for another 10 years. Nearly end of 10 years, the local people who are the entrepreneur in this area, we think what are the next occupation. So at that time we start to think about hotel business or tourism business. And my family, I myself also start the first property in this area. We name it Khao Lak Laguna. Next 100 meters from here. At that time, we are only one property in this area. We start with the 56 room. Surprisingly, we start with the room rate about 300 baht. Include American breakfast for 2 person. Each 120 for each. So the room cost only 60 baht at that time, 56 villas. And then within 3 years, we turned to be 111. And at that time, we don't have any confidence that the tourism will grow up so rapidly like this. After we do the hotel business, 8 years, from we have only 100 rooms. Within 8 years until 2004, we have totally 6,000 rooms. 6,000 rooms at that time. We have the people who work in this area about 12,000 people. 12,000 people means we don't have enough local people to work because especially in this area, we have only 30 families. So we have to recruit, like let's say the Burmese labor also, even now. And then we faced the tsunami on 2004. We take about 2 years for rebuild. At that time, why we have to build the same location also. At that time, nobody have any confidence. At first, we group together all the local people who are the owner in this area. We just talk to the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, whether do you still support us? Some have insurance, some don't have insurance. Some have insurance but not recover all. Some don't have insurance, so how to support to rebuild all the business in this area. So after we do discuss with the Prime Minister, Vice Minister from Finance Department, they said we will have another property fund, the fund for us. That is the new knowledge for us also. It's like the new loan from MFC. So the owner in this area make decision to recover the tourism to be back. Not only that, we do the roadshow to Europe, also to Sweden, to Germany, to Switzerland, everywhere in Europe. But no signal at all that they will coming back, right? No signal at all. They have no answer, no response. But we group together, sit together, and discuss. Oh, we have to bring back business because this is our hometown. This is our occupation. So we have to bring it back. If we don't bring back the business here, or we cannot live with the fear. We have to bring back the business, to make the people confidence that the tourism can be back. So we take about, let's say, 3 years to recover, to rebuild all the hotel in this area. So later, right now, 10 years already. Do you believe right now the number of rooms 7,000 more than we have before tsunami already, and we have another 2,000 rooms still asking for the local government to coming back for the new investor also. This is we realize about the immigration also because we don't have enough manpower to work in this area. So most of manpower come from the northern part of Thailand or eastern part of Thailand. Some from abroad also. Right now we have most workers from Burma also, and from Japan also, from Philippines also coming already. Because let's say the labor cost that we pay here triple or much more than Philippines or Burma also. This kind of things happen. And we also have in this area the Swedish communities, German communities, and Switzerland communities. They are the repeater guests in this area. At Nam Kim area right now have about 30 families from Swiss, let's say Swiss village. Also from Khao area nearby here, we have a community from German and a community from Switzerland also. That's why they think they don't scare about the tsunami or any disaster, because we cannot predict where will happen, or even you have the good prediction or good forecast that they will have another earthquake, but actually sometimes when you say it happened, it never happened. But when you say not happen, it happened always. If you stay in this area, this always happen, because I'm here and then always listen to all this information. So we cannot live with the fearness or with the panic that disaster will destroy our life. So we have to learn to live with the disaster everywhere in the world happen. For I myself also, not only the tourism or hotel business I take care. Last 3 years I just expand my another business to where the earthquake happened to Indonesia. I have the tin mining industry at Bangka Belitung at Indonesia also. I opened this business last 2 years. If I'm the Thai investor, if I scare of the disaster at Indonesia, so I cannot expand the business or like have to live with the panic always. Cannot happen also. That's why I able to tell you that why we have to build the hotels or bring back the tourism in the area. I think you may have the same feeling when you face the same problem with like me, because it's your hometown, it's your occupation. You have to bring it back for the next generation also. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for these clear perspectives from the business community, and also for sort of wrapping up the history of Khao from the tin mining industry to rubber to prawn and then to tourism. And then, of course, the question is what will come next, or will be tourism the end, and what are the long-term future perspectives, in particular in the context of global environmental change. And you already mentioned sort of a very optimistic and brave attitudes towards disaster, but of course we all have to be prudent and prepare for the worst, not being afraid of it, but taking evidence into account. But before we enter this discussion, let me pass on the microphone to Crisel to tell us about your Philippine experience.
So, good morning everyone, and I would like to thank Sir Wolfgang Lutz, Ms. Raya Mutarak for the opportunity, and of course the organizer, the School of Population Studies, for this opportunity of inviting me here. Because when I was listening just a while ago, just this morning, I had goosebumps listening to all the presentation. Because all those dimensions are affecting disaster risk reduction, and it is a reality. And when I go back to the municipality of Maasin, that is my hometown, actually our municipality is a third-class municipality located in the province of Iloilo, Western Visayas. It is 30 kilometers away from the capital city of Iloilo, and we are 440 kilometers away from the capital of the Philippines, Manila. So it's quite far. When you look at the map, we look like so insignificant. But big or small, we too have our own share of the wrath of nature, out of the hazards or the disasters. Actually, the municipality of Maasin became known nationwide when the Maasin watershed area became denuded. that we needed to rehabilitate it because it supplies 90% of the population of Iloilo City with a potable drinking water. So that's when Maasin becomes significant. Then, because of the efforts of rehabilitation, it's not quite that successful because we have to plant trees, but trees take time to grow. So, we resorted to bamboo. Actually, Sir Jose Andres Ignacio was one with the municipality of Maasin on the efforts of the rehabilitation of the Maasin watershed area. So because Maasin is located in a mountainous part of the province, and it sheltered the Tigom River, which provides water to the city of Iloilo and its neighboring municipalities. Yet we also suffer with the risk or hazards of nature because we experience flood, we experience landslide. Now we are also experiencing water stress and drought. Just recently, prior to the Yolanda experience, we have the Typhoon Frank experience, or the Typhoon International Codename Feng Shen. It damaged the watershed area. Because of the precipitation, the water seeped in, and there was flash flood, uprooting thousands of trees, bringing it to the lower portion of the municipalities and cities, destroying infrastructures. We were all unprepared for that. We never anticipated it because it was only a small rain. We don't have the communication to the upland areas because at the lowland areas, all our concern is that it was just a small rain, a drizzle. It could not cause flood, but we were all shocked the following morning. At a flash of an eye, there was a big flood, destroying houses, bridges, killing. In the municipality of Maasin, 6 people died. 7 others were missing, and it left 1,000 homeless. We were not prepared. We don't know where to bring those people. It was an awakening also to the municipality of Maasin, and of course to the entire nation. Because Typhoon Frank, International Codename Feng Shen, had hit 16 provinces of the Philippines because they could not predict its movement. So the damage was also unimaginable. It was not captured by the international media, I guess. So it was not featured that as compared to the Yolanda, but because of the Yolanda, the extent of damage is really that horrific. But what gave us so much lesson is Typhoon Frank. We learned from there. And from there on, in the municipality of Maasin, we strengthen our capacity to face disaster risk reduction. We go back to the grassroots, to the community. As we were discussing a while ago, we need awareness, education. So to whom shall we address that? We have to address that to the community itself. So we conducted a participatory capacity vulnerability assessment. We gathered the community. We asked them, okay, when are the hazards usually would happen? So who are the vulnerable people? What are the hazards expected to strike your community? So they have to put that into writing. And then we help them, okay, what are you going to do with that? How are you going to address that? So it's helping the community little by little. It's not at an instant, but we have to do it one step at a time. So when the Yolanda came, more or less the municipality of Maasin was almost prepared, although many houses were damaged because there was a 0 casualty. Because people itself, they have their own method of early warning system within the community. They knew which part of their community is vulnerable to flood, to landslide. So they know which part of their community is safe as their safe haven. So they could save the community. They knew which who among the members of the community should remain in the safe haven: the women, the children, the elderly. So more or less they have the idea. But of course, aside from flood, we are also experiencing the drought. So what is our adaptive capacity on that? We have bamboo. Actually, the municipality of Maasin is rich in bamboo. During Typhoon Yolanda, the Office of Civil Defense was so shocked because in our evacuation center, there were almost 3,000 evacuees. But by 5 o'clock the following morning, none of them were left in the evacuation center. You know why? They went back to their homes and started to rebuild because they have the bamboo. They just have to cut the bamboo, even if the bamboo was smashed by the typhoon, yet they could still make use of that. And during the Typhoon Phang, it was also the bamboo that saved them. Because the rice fields were destroyed by flood, they made use of the bamboo to make up with the bamboo crafts, and they sold bamboo poles. So they could still earn a living out of that. So it's one of the adaptive capacity of the municipality of Maasin. So that municipality of Maasin is celebrating a festival known as the Tultugan Bamboo Music Festival. It is not only promoting the culture of Maasin, the way of life of the people of Maasin, but we are also celebrating the early warning system. Because the municipality of Maasin, being a third-class municipality, we could not afford to purchase that high technology early warning system. So they made use of the bamboo. So when any disaster or a calamity would strike, they would have to strike the one-node bamboo. They come up with a code for that, the distress call. So they made use of that previously during Typhoon Yolanda, when they needed to evacuate the community already to the safer area or to the higher ground. So they made use of that. And of course, we are also celebrating bamboo as the industry of the Maasin that give the people of Maasin livelihood after the disaster. Because without the bamboo, with the rice fields also being damaged by the flood, and also of their livestock, they have nowhere to go. All they could do is they have to go to the reserved area or the Maasin watershed and would convert that into a rice field, which what had happened in 1991, which cost... Okay, sorry. So that was the bamboo. And of course, bamboo served also as life-saving devices for the people in Maasin. So they use that as floatage also to transport their goods. And of course, during Typhoon Phang, when it's very difficult to cross the river, they made use of the bamboo as floatage. So bamboo is not a celebration of culture for the municipality of Maasin. But of course, it is a celebration of disaster resilience of the community. And so the people of Maasin is also increasing in its population, but our growth rate is quite low or slow. We are slowly growing with 1.3% growth rate. But according to our municipal planning officer, according to him, I am I contributed to that slow rate because for 3 years I've been married, but I don't have a child yet. So, our projection is that by 40 years from now, our population would reach only 56,000, because at the moment, our population is pegged at 36,000 something. However, we believe that the increase in population would also affect would have an impact in the environment, because increase of population would demand more water, more land, and of course more transportation and energy, and these things would impact the environment and would cause even the degradation. So we believe in that. And so far as the municipality of Maasin, although we're pushed back by hazards such as flood, landslide, drought, or warm weather condition, yet we bend. But we are not broken, because just like the bamboo, we are resilient. So thank you and good morning.
Very good. Thank you very much for this lively account of your work, your visions, and your important message that this really needs to go little by little, utilizing the local resources and local traditions. Now, before we enter the general discussion, let me just pose one question to all three people here on the table. And in your view, in your personal view and your experience, what do you see as the biggest dangers for the community here in Phang Nga or in your Philippine community for the next 10 to 20 years. So you need not focus on the environmental dangers if you think that there are the economic problems are more likely, or political problems, or social unrest, or whatever. Just give me, just very briefly, an account of what do you think are the biggest dangers to the well-being of the people. Maybe we start with you.
Okay, thank you very much. For my opinion, it's not the next 10 years, but right now also we face of these problems also. But it's not because we, let's say we don't have enough fund. What I'm talking about, the first is the polluted water. Phang Nga area, this area normally we have lots of raining during the rainy season, but we cannot right now we still lack of water also. So we have to have the good management about the water system, also how to keep the water, how to purify the water, and how to manage with the polluted water. Because right now most of the hotels in this area have very good purification, but some let's say small restaurant or some other business they don't have much. But anyway, right now the local government try to support all how to manage with the polluted water also. But with the rapidly change for the next 10 years, I think we should have the big system also for all the polluted water. And the next is the garbage disposal is the main problem also, because right now even Phang Nga have such a big land also, but we don't have the government sector who discuss about how to manage with all the garbage disposal system. Some may say that we should have some model like Khorpeach that they can reuse or recycle all the garbage, but when they start the factory, but they turn to be electricity, but they don't have the enough fund for finance later on also. So that's another problem. So for my opinion, I have these two about polluted water and sewage disposal. That's the main. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. What is your view about the biggest dangers?
In my opinion, I think there is a rapid increase of the demand in the utilization of national resources in this area, mainly because the province is very attractive. You can see that people from all over the world are here, and there has been an increased demand, even though you are good tourists. But when there is a demand, you have to consume food, you need accommodation. So many land has turned into hotels or resort. Many agricultural area has turned into this for the purpose of tourist activities. And I think it is very important to involve stakeholders. Most of the time when policymakers will sit down and they work for the people, but they should work with the people. They think for them. For example, there is an increased demand of tourism here, so government and entrepreneurs try to provide necessary facilities. We have a small island here called Khorpeach, because they're thinking of opening a new airport there. So many people are thinking that how they should develop Khorpeach. The government think they have their opinions, entrepreneurs think they have their own opinion, but nobody asks the people in Khorpeach what they want. So I think a lot of, I'm looking from the social aspect, that if you do not involve all the stakeholders, and that is wrong, and that is the failure of all the development work in the world, and that will cause further problem. It is, sorry, one more minute. It is very important that one important lesson that we can learn from tsunami, that before the communities were very strong. Small-scale fishermen were offered with a big boat and big engine. And they have to go and they have to use more fuel, they're more expensive, and they catch the same fish. The people on one of the islands, they use firewood for cooking. They were offered with cooking gas, with the stove. And they have to, when the gas run out, they have to come to mainland to buy for the cooking gas. You make the people very dependent. Most of the people, most of the families have shallow water wells for consumption. But because when the community has developed, then there is a public water work that was organized. And when there is a problem of drought, then the people have no water at home. Some families who use still the shallow wells, they can still use that water.
So for the future, you also think that this possible tension between industrial development strategy, central planning, and the interest of the people and not enough communication is one of the key problems that you see?
Yes, you cannot stop this trend. When there is a strong demand of something, the key word would be to keep the good balance of this.
Okay. So what about you? Just in a couple of sentences, what you see for your community as the biggest threat, the biggest danger for the next 10, 20 years?
Okay, actually before I came here, I had a discussion with our Municipal Planning and Development Officer, and he told me that in the coming 10 to 20 years, we'll be facing water stress, especially so that we are providing potable water to our neighboring towns and municipalities, and of course, solid waste management. Those are the two main problems that we'll be facing in 10 to 20 years from now if we are not able to manage or address that.
Okay, thank you very much. You've heard it. The water and the solid waste issue are really on the top of the agenda of the local concerns. Floor is open for any questions, comments you may have. Yes. Is there a microphone?
There he goes. Okay, I said a little prayer and it started to work in Amharic. Thank you very much, Sawadikap. I think that those of us who work in population realize that local municipalities and businesses and tourism are often interested in more population, in increasing population. Often population means that you're more important, you get more resources, there's more modernization and development. But sometimes those of us who work in migration field also, we realize that sometimes the people who come in, the newcomers, may be different. They may be from Europe, they may be from Myanmar, they may be from Philippines, or they may be from the north or the northeast land. And so people who come in might change the culture or the language and the way of life. We understand that with increasing education here in the province, that Phang Nga, that the local people may be moving out because they're getting educated, and then you have other people from the outside moving in. Is there any concern that with your interest in increasing the population here, that the culture and the way of life may be changing?
Who wants to respond? Both of them?
Well, we are living in a pluralistic society, and I think the society of Thailand has a lot of tolerance. We assimilate very well to new cultures, but at the same time, I think we have to, there's sometimes some two factors, some controllable factors and uncontrollable factors. When you talk about migrations, we're not talking only about migrant workers from neighboring countries, because it is normal that people would seek better economic and social opportunities as long as the differences in the social and economic opportunities exist. You cannot stop this influx of migrants, and not only the non-Thais, but we also have economic migrants from other parts of Thailand where the per capita income is lower. We have a lot of people from Isan, from the northeast, from the northern part of Thailand. It's very sad for me that when I was in Phuket, I met a lot of people from the hills, the ethnic groups who live on the hill, the Akha, that at least one of them I know personally. I met her in the mountain, on the mountain in Chiang Mai, at her village, and I saw her in Phuket trying to sell souvenirs. For me, this is a big tragedy. There is no livelihood for these people. But why? Why she and other friends have to be there? I think we are making a lot of imbalance to this society. I have no answers for this, but this is a phenomenon that are existing in this society.
Okay. So I may answer that about I think the population will move out or something, but from my experience, when we have the tourism business in this area or different kind of business, right now all the local people who educate from Bangkok or from overseas or anywhere, right now they have very good opportunities that they can come back home and have a job to do here. And so I think when we can balance about the development and what we are going to do, so I think they will coming back home. So they have job to do here. Some have the lawyer before they cannot coming back home because they don't have job to do, or some graduate they have to go to the big city to work. But right now they can come back home and help to develop the community also. And for the answer about the culture or even the environmental concern, I think we will not lose our culture and what we realize about environmental, because we working in tourism business. We realize that with the strong culture and with the good environmental concern with our preservation is the important thing. So we try to keep the culture and try to bring back the old culture that already lost in the community to bring back also. And we also allocate the profit from our business to back to communities, or to maybe we have the CSR to plant more the mangrove also to clean up the hometown, or to bring back, like last 2 years we bring back the Nemo to Similan Island also. We have to do like a turtle preservation or something like that. So I think we should balance it also, and luckily the most of the local who are the entrepreneur in this area, we realize all this. So I think we will keep the strong nature and keep the environment concern. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, one.
First, let me
Here we go. Thank you so much for bringing these deeply grounded experiences and knowledge to our deliberations. I want to ask a question. I think it applies both to the Philippines and to Thailand. Both countries have now written at least one, sometimes two or more, national adaptation programs of action for climate change. And I'm wondering whether about the relationship between your experiences and knowledge and these national level plans. Have you seen these national plans? Do you recognize in those plans the concerns of your municipality or of regions like this? I noticed, for example, that the UN agency who oversees these plans has a project just completed on climate protection and tourism. Were you consulted, or were your peers and colleagues in similar positions along the coast? Were you consulted in this process of developing the national plans? So what is the connection between the national level activities and what happens on the ground?
Thank you. Actually, those are the realities that is happening. So I guess you were talking about the Yugo framework of action. Actually, presently we are guided by the Republic Act 10121, strengthening the disaster risk reduction management program of the Philippines. Actually, we came to know of that only 2 years ago, and we are still trying to internalize that law on disaster risk reduction and management. But on the level of the municipality, we are taking efforts, because if we have to wait for the national government and the municipal government would not take the necessary initiative, we are usually at the losing end, because it's our people that that is being affected. So like in the municipality of Maasin, our trust now is development should equal industry, culture, and environment, because there should be a balance. Otherwise, if we lose our culture, we lose our identity. We are losing also our people. Industry. If we thrive with our industry and forget about our environment, then nothing would happen. We would all die, because we are too dependent on the bamboo. So the bamboo now, actually they are naturally grown, but we are trying to plant more bamboos, especially on the arid areas or areas that are vacant, because we believe that our industry is resource based. So we need to enhance that in order to maintain the holding capacity of it to sustain our people. So that is it.
Just a quick question that I have to say that for Thailand case, it's very much centralized, and I think the participation is quite poor, to be honest.
Any other questions? Okay, let's go down. Patrick first, and then.
Okay, thank you for your presentations. Before now, I'm under the impression that what you suffer mostly here is tsunami, but you mentioned drought. Recently we had drought in Thailand here. So my questions are as follows. Do you think the incidences of drought will continue? And if the answer is yes, how do you think this drought can affect the tourism business? Bearing in mind that, you know, the nature of business you have here. And if the drought will also continue, do you have any plans or any strategy, you know, with which you intend to balance these incidents of drought with tsunami vis-a-vis the tourism industry in Thailand? Thank you.
Did you understand the question? Drought or something?
Maybe repeat your question. Right now, normally the government have the policy about how to manage about the drought already, but we face about the problem about the budget. Actually, in this area, at Taplamu area, before you reach Khao Lak National Park, the government have the policy to make the dam in this area. They budget about 7,000 million baht. 7,000 million baht, and this dam will supply the water to not only Phang Nga but Surat Thani and also Phuket also. Phuket right now they have about 50,000 rupees. They don't have enough water supply also. But this dam have very big agreement to finish also, because some last 5 years ago, the government said they will make this land to make the dam, and all the local people, when they know that they will get some money for the government will buy back all the land, they just take back all the forest, and suddenly within 1 year, the government cannot pay. So it's next another 5 years, this dam cannot even start. Have another big agreement about the earthquake. They worry about the earthquake from Ranong will make the dam broken and it will damage all the communities. That's why this dam cannot not happen yet. But anyway, we have all the pipe already to the Phang Nga area. So we just pump all the water from Tung Maprao river instead right now. But the dam, the project have already, but it cannot start because we don't have. The government said they don't have enough budget, and the community, some still not agree to have the dam in this area. Even though we have lots of water during rainy season, but we cannot keep it to use during this even high season for the tourism. And actually, if this dam will start, they can support not only Phang Nga province, but also Surat Thani and Phuket. Okay.
You want to have a quick comment?
Okay, one quick comment from me. When we when we look at the statistics in 2012, the average annual rainfall for Phang Nga is about 4,000 millimeters, and that is a lot, where the average of the whole country is about 1,900. And next province to Phang Nga is Ranong, where the highest annual rainfall is. The average rainfall in 2012 is 5,000 millimeters. That's a lot. So it's a problem of whether the problem of the water we have is whether we have too much or too little. Apparently, what we have at the moment now is that we have a longer summer where we experience drought at the same time. And a good example would be that in Phuket, there is a high demand of water consumption. This is not enough at the moment. So they are thinking even taking from the dam, Ratchaprapha Dam, which is the biggest dam in the south, which is about 400 kilometers from here. A big pipe running through many areas. And that's one of the plans, but still we cannot find a solution to this at the moment, but the problem still exists.
Okay, next question.
I have two small questions. One is, since the tsunami happened, the building code to rebuild all the touristic infrastructure and eventually also roads or all the settlements along the coast of the region, did anything really change in terms of building standards, in terms of best practice? Was any lessons learned of how to eventually build in such a way that if any other tsunami or catastrophe comes again, that people home or touristic infrastructure is better prepared to resist to such a situation? That's the first part of the question. The second one is related to it, is in terms of the population. You have basically two groups of people. One are the residents, the people living and working there full time, and the other are the tourists that are eventually passing through for one day, for 1 week. How have you been dealing with this situation of having basically two very different populations, especially the tourists that basically are just staying very shortly, in terms of being able to prepare for natural disasters and evacuation and so on? I have been here, for example, for about a week. I don't know what to do if something goes wrong. I don't know what alert system exists. Nobody in the hotel has given me any briefing or any piece of paper telling me, oh, by the way, if something goes wrong, you should go there. I have seen some signs somewhere that there is an evacuation route and a meeting point somewhere, but is there any kind of, let's say, policy or local kind of instructions that have been shared across all the, let's say, private and public, let's say, organizations?
Okay, thank you for your question. For the review after tsunami, actually I would tell you that at Phang Nga area, why this area happened for the tourism. The first, I can say that last 18 years ago, for the local people, we not only realize about the importance about the environmental, we also set our own rules and regulation in this area together from local people that we will have no sunbed on the beach. I want to tell you the background. No sunbed on the beach, no commercial business on the beach also, and no engine motors. That's why we try to keep Phang Nga tourism environmental friendly also. And later, next three years after 1996, we sit and group together and we set our rules and regulation about the construction and propose to the government that you should announce this law. Otherwise, we said if the newcomer or new investor for the next 10 years coming, so the way of the development will change from what we want, from what local people want. So we have the rules and regulation that how far from the beach, how many meters you can build. At first stage, maybe not higher than 6 meters, or the second phase maybe only 15 meters. The third phase maybe 30 meters. That we set our own rules and regulation and ask the government to announce to use in these properties. And after tsunami, we also realized about the disaster problems. We have the better plan. I myself, Khao Lak Laguna ever been constructed by all wood. Let's say 90% all wood. Right now we change some concrete and together with wood for better, more strong building also. And we also have the space for evacuation plan also for the tsunami plan. How to have the area to accept all our customer. So we have the area about 18 higher than the water level. So if in case of the problems, you can run up and group together here before we have the movement plan. For the government here, we have the yearly plan for on November or December every year for tsunami escape route, and also in every hotel we have the program to teach or to train all the staff how to do when have disaster problem. Actually, every hotel have tsunami plan attached to every room. Maybe have to plan fire extinguish, fire escape plan and tsunami escape. Maybe if you can notice all information in rooms. And we have also the route where you should go also. That's the thing that we are discuss. Some design don't have the old style roof. Some hotels have the flat roof to accept all the people when they run out, just in case. And every beach, the government just do the building. I think more than 500 people or nearly 1,000 people can live in the higher. For example, for Pakalang Beach, they have this kind of building on the beach, near the beach also. So, and for the test, signal test, we have the signal test on every Monday in every hotel in this area. From the disaster center, we send the signal. So about on Monday, 12 o'clock, every hotel we have the signal. So that means it tests already 10 years already after tsunami right now. So it's work. We will know 1 hour before if the tsunami comes. So, and the second question?
Well, I think you answered both questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Stefan.
Yeah, I think my question would have gone in the same direction, asking about the early warning system and how it is working. So maybe you can also reflect a little bit on, there was this event we heard in the morning in 2012, there was this kind of alarm, which luckily was not a tsunami, but in the end, of course, there was some warning. Maybe you can reflect how this is working. And probably a second question would be, because also after this kind of disasters, a lot of effort goes into this kind of single event, in this case now tsunami, but we've heard that there's also hazards here, like droughts and probably floodings or rainfall issues. Do you think this is also kind of balanced, so that from the government there is also activities being taken to take in account also other hazards, so that there's a comprehensive approach towards natural hazards?
Well, from my point of view, I think around this Khao area, because from the early warning system, the system may be quite good. But in some other coastal areas where local villagers live, because you need a solar panel to generate the power for this, and I quote this saying from the villager that from the practice, the sound of the warning system sounds like a cricket. So that means that it's very not so loud. And I think once in a while the government has to check on this. And I think Thailand, we have a lot of priorities, and according to whom. And this may be one of priority number 500 on the bottom list for the government. And they are the decision makers, and they're the one who have to take action. So I think I still put the focus on strengthening communities. A lot of communities along this coast have been weakened after the tsunami because of the wrong approach in assistance that weaken the communities, make the people become more dependent, like what I said before.
Okay, for I myself, I think we have very good warning system right now. We know 1 hour before, and we have lots of communication system, even your mobile. We have SMS from everywhere, from Facebook to update. Sometimes you maybe you know before they just warning you also from your friend from Singapore, from Indonesia, from Malaysia. But the thing is the important thing when I face the same the real situation, the important is how to control the situation, to make decision for to move or not to move, right? Because even we have better, very good warning system already. I myself faced this problem also last time. From the disaster center said, okay, the tsunami will not happen, but how to manage the panic of the guests? They want to move already. Something. So when the hotels make decision not to move the customer, the guests say, oh, you are not so good. When you make decision, okay, you should move, they say, it's not happened. This happened already one time. Every hotel faced these problems at that time. So it depends how to manage the situation on that day also. We have very good warning system, but how to make the people don't panic and trust all the information or warning that the disaster center just tell you. Because most of even our tourists from Europe, when this happen, they don't believe that oh, it will not happen. They have because the alarm ring already, and then even they not to move, it will not happen. No one want to stay in the property already. Everyone want to run out. So we should have the second plan that, like my property, we have the second center that we prepare our food, our dress, and our shower room, just in case we just move all the customer there. So because if we face the problem and then we said, oh, you should stay, it's not, it will not happen. No one in the real situation, no one stay in the hotel. We have to move. Actually, even you say no.
Okay, thank you. It's 1 o'clock now, and we're supposed to finish and go for lunch. And we can, I think, 5 minutes over. But I think we need to wrap up at this point. What I felt in this discussion was very similar to what I had experienced when I did many sort of structured qualitative interviews over the last years here in Phang Nga and in other parts of the world, that really between the global environmental change research community at the IPCC and others, and people working on the ground, a major difference is also the time horizon. Like, we are dealing with models that go 2050s, early in the future. Sometimes we go to 2100 and foresee a really very different world, a different society. Whereas the issues that are close to your mind and to your heart are solving more immediate, like the solid waste problem really needs a solution, or the water supply. But these are, of course, things that with proper management can be done within 5 or 7 years. So at this point, I mean, this is just a reality that there are these different time horizons. And I want to conclude this session with asking you what you would expect, or what your questions are, or where you could expect some help from the international scientific community. I mean, we have many distinguished colleagues here around the table who are dealing in modeling of the global environmental change and the consequences on human well-being and future disasters. Do you expect any information or any help from such sort of analysis in your daily business? Maybe just a couple of sentences, whether there's anything that you would give as a wish list to us. Maybe you want to start.
Thank you so much. Actually, the opportunity that you have given me for coming over is already one step towards it. And we hope that the presentations that you have discussed a while ago and the previous one that I wasn't able to attend, I hope that it could reach also the other countries and even our local government units, because we needed that. Actually, it's been happening as a reality. They just needed to see it, to really see it, that is the fact. So it's not just because they believe in that, it's a tradition or they see that in the community, but based on the studies of the experts, it's really happening. So we hope that your studies would also reach our country and our municipalities, because really it would be a big help. What you have discussed, all the dimensions, is covered by the disaster risk reduction and management, both in the mitigation, preparedness, and adaptation. Thank you so much.
Mr. Prapud, you have...
Okay, for myself, I would like to say thank you to all of you also to have this kind of meetings, which is very important topic to not only for Phang Nga but all people over the world. But the thing is, I think what for the result of the meeting should not be better if it cannot be the result what we should do. So if we, for the result of the meeting, we have the solution about the area for Phang Nga or for everywhere. So maybe we have to better how to alert all the people who concerned realize that it is important what to do something, especially the government or local government or the people in this area. So that is the, I think when we can make the result of the meeting to be the action, will be the good results of the people, and see that it's really good from the meeting and can be an action, and then later you can see the result again. It will be proud of everyone to the meeting also, and hopefully from the result of the meeting will coming back to us, and we may raise these topics to the local government and manage how to handle all these kind of things. So people who want to travel to Phang Nga about the tourism have to be proud also that Phang Nga Tourism Association and hotel in this area realize about the environmental and climate change, and we help to get together to balance out of this. Okay, so hopefully, I would like to say thank you everyone to be at Phang Nga and have raised this topic to the discussion, and hopefully the result of the meeting will be turned to be the action soon. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to say thank you to you, and would like to say that you all are doing a very important work. It is very important to provide relevant and information to the people for the better planning. And I would say that if we know yesterday, we know today, then we don't have to worry about tomorrow. I'd like to congratulate you for the successful seminar, and you all, and please continue to do a good work for the future of humankind. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much for your participation. I hope you can stay over lunch and we can informally